Well, here we are. A lot of people have asked me to try to do an extensive kind of list of my two sons and whatnot. Um, well, I mean, a lot of you probably know, but I generally collect as in coming in. I don't generally trade and get rid of a whole lot of them. So, I have a fat stack, and figured I would try to get around all of these here. I have them basically in about 9 of these trays here that I have kind of set next to me, but it's much easier for me to just pull it out. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started here. First couple of these are some funky little Karambits and G10 handles with gut hooks for whatever particular reason. At least the ring's large enough for the hands. That's nice. These are in-house designs. There's black G10s, black and green. That's the MSO2 and MSO3. And each one of them comes with 2 extra pocket clips in the box because they're not incredibly durable. I should also mention that these guys' blade steel is 420J2, which is not particularly great. It's kind of what a lot of the mall ninja crazy fantasy blades are made out of and whatnot. This is the TS04, if I remember right. Yeah, so it's not an MS, but it's the same kind of thing here. Same clip. This is black and orange G10, but it's not textured. It's a little more fine. And we have a blade pull. We do technically have a flipper tab, but none of these are on bearings. These are on plastic or nylon washers. Yeah, I think this is kind of where they originally got their start, being like an OEM possibly for some other companies or something. I'm not quite sure, but these are in-house designs. And for whatever reason, you do see these things pop up from time to time still as they manufacture them. But hey, they're like 16 to 20 bucks. So what are you going to do here? And then we got the TS06 in carbon fiber. They also have a full titanium variant of that. It's a very thin Tonto blade. This is from Night Morning. It's in D2. This is the carbon fiber variant is quite a bit new compared to the original one, but hey, I do like this quite a bit. And this little area here was really useful rather recently when I had to replace my keyboard on my laptop, and it was basically plastic studded into space in like 52 areas, and I'm not joking on that. It was ridiculous. All right. Next one we had up here is a TS09. This one has a name, the Black Mamba. It's got their black stamped clip. These things are almost the devil incarnate. They rarely work on their designs. And this one, yeah, it digs right in there, and they're super sharp. But the blade itself is pretty interesting. I don't see a maker on this, so I'm going to assume that it's an in-house design. Could have swore this was a Night Morning, but it's not attributed to him, at least not on the knife here. But D2, we have thumb studs that work out all right. The action on it feels pretty good, and the blade is pretty interesting. Very, very thick. And we do have compound grind on that. Very, very slight drop point going on there. All right, the next one we have here is the TS16, and believe it or not, this is the first TwoSun that I ever picked up, randomly finding it on Amazon and not knowing anything about the company and giving it a shot, and was impressed with basically all their the milling on their G10 on these black and white kind of things here. This has their stamp clip. This is a Night Morning design. Now, they also do make this in a full titanium with M390 blade, and this same blade is also shared on a couple others. I think the TS65 and the 88. Neither one of which I actually own, but the blades look pretty much identical, so we'll go with that. Alright, the next one up here is a knockoff, unfortunately. I didn't know that at the time, but yes, this is supposed to be the TS20, and in almost every way, shape, and form it is. We do have a D2 blade there, the grind is basically the same on there. Very thick blade on it. It's in D2 steel, as those are. About the only thing that's different here is the handles on this are steel. They're not titanium, unfortunately. Just something that I wasn't particularly aware of when I tried to buy it from a third-party seller. So, yeah, that's the only one like that I have. And I figured I wouldn't just completely get rid of it. Alright, this is TS21. I like this thing quite a bit. It's been kind of back and forth on being produced, but it's back and going on there. I don't necessarily like these screws. It's kind of the hinder design kind of a pivot there. Yeah, I'm just not generally a fan of the flathead sort of thing. And you can see if I get in real close, these screws actually aren't super incredibly durable. But the titanium handles are very comfortable. The blade shape's great. And another one that's not really attributed to anyone, so I guess this is an in-house design. It's a good one. And nice and affordable. Alright, here's the TS23. This thing is ridiculous. Kerchunk. This is basically a folding kukri. It still has that hinders kind of pivot going on there. This is also an in-house design, and this one's kind of unfortunate. For one, I really do like the handle on it, especially as it flares out at the end. It really kind of gives you a feel like you can do a lot of chopping with it. That's pretty interesting. And the blade shape and all that's pretty interesting with the kukri sort of thing going on there. And this does have bearings in it, so it's nice and smooth. But the blade steel in it is 420 J2. So it's going to hold a steel, or it's going to hold an edge just about as well as a frozen stick of butter, unfortunately. So there's that. Next up, I got the TS26 Nightwing. I haven't seen this for sale through TwoSun for very long time. I actually picked this up used through a Facebook group, and I do like this thing. It's fairly thin compared to some of their other frame locks and whatnot. It does have these interesting thumb disc sort of things. They do require you to push outward, as they do have these grooves that match the handle, which means you have absolutely nothing to push up on. So you have to push out, which to me always feels just a little bit awkward. But hey, you got that flipper tab as well. This one has a really thick and heavy blade on it, which is kind of strange. But really nice and comfortable. This is a night morning. And we have another night morning here. This is the Zenith. And this is in micarta. This is their standard micarta, as I end up stating. This one in particular, I actually sanded down and re-oiled myself. And I do like the feel of it a little bit more now. It's a little more refined feeling. And for whatever particular reason, this pocket clip actually works really well with this particular design. I have seen them now also make these in G10, in black G10, but yeah, they're all D2 steel. This is a pretty darn nice knife overall. We got that kind of thumb ramp up there, reverse tanto. It's a pretty big guy too. Alright, speaking of big guys, we got the Fire Ant. Yep, this is yet another night morning design. This is an M390, and it's a titanium frame lock with a pocket clip and everything like that. Very, very tiny. We do have a little patch of carbon fiber there. It's held in with adhesive, so not something super easy to completely take apart. but it's a cute little thing. All right, and then we have the TS38 in dash D2, and this is in micarta, and you can tell that this is a cheaper and different micarta than this stuff is. This is most definitely a burlap thread kind of thing going on here, and it's got the black stamp clip, and yeah, you can flip it open. This guy is kind of a drop pointy Tonto sort of thing. And between that clip and whatnot, this did not adapt very well. This is not particularly a comfortable knife in any stretch of the imagination. The blade on it's still pretty darn good. You can get a lot of good work done with it, but yeah, you're definitely gonna dig into yourself with that. However, a lot later on, I decided that I wanted to check out the original. So this is the TS38 and titanium and M390. And I gotta say, this thing is so much better. It's much thinner in the handles. Obviously, the pocket clip on this, which is mounted on the inside, by the way. And so is the internal lock bar relief there. Super nice. I like to see a lot of those kind of attentions to detail. But yeah, it's much thinner, really comfortable in the hand. The pocket clip doesn't get around to you or anything like that. Same geometry on the blade, except for, you know, different blade steel and all that sort of stuff. It's just a heck of a lot better. So if you are eyeing this one, I would probably suggest you at least consider getting the original version. All right, well, that's tray one. Here is tray 2, and we have the TS41 and supposedly the TS41-up. Now, I'd covered this before, but I've looked over every single inch of these things, and there is absolutely nothing different. They're both S90V, exact same blades, exact same handles, exact same inner workings. So I think maybe the dash up was a mistake when they were relisting some of these. But I really like this thing. You know, it's got that blackened titanium like the TS38. Very small. Kind of reminds me of an Iron Cross or something like that. You know, some sort of a British sort of thing going on there. This is basically a 2.5 finger knife. But does a pretty darn good job. Has a really, really nice thinner edge kind of going on there, even though the blade stock way up top, fairly thick. Seems to happen quite a bit. And these things also have the pocket clip that are mounted internally. So there is that, and I have a couple of them. All right, here we have the TS42. I don't know why I have a dash in there, but I guess I apparently did that on a couple of them. They don't have a dash in their names. But, yes, this is also one I have not seen for sale in a very, very long time, and I purchased this used. I tend to refer to this as the Atari model, just because it reminds me of the gradient pattern that you would get on a lot of Atari 2600 games and whatnot. It just kind of feels right to me. And this is, it's got some interesting kind of design sort of things going on here. You got that notch there, which, unfortunately, when it's closed... Oh, no, I'm absolutely wrong on that. Yeah, this guy is quite nice and buried in there. Very nice, long back spacer as well. Nice action on there. That black stamped clip sucks a little bit less on this one than usual, but it's still not super the best. We do have a decent amount of blade there, and you know, as near as makes no difference, a little clip there at the end, but still very robust up there. Pretty interesting knife. This one is pretty wacky. This is the TS47. I don't remember off the top of my head if this is Anthony Vincent, if that's his maker's mark or not, or if this was somebody else. I'm not quite sure. When I saw this, I thought it was much, much smaller than it is. This thing is actually enormous, even though the blade doesn't look all that large on it. And ergonomically, not exactly fantastic. It has a very generous finger choil there. And I guess you got that thumb ramp over here. But you also have that ramp out there for the index finger for doing utility cuts and whatnot. But I'm still kind of under the impression that this was probably designed to be a bit more of a tactical option along the Warncliffe style sort of things, like the Yo Jumbo and Yo Jimbo from Spyderco. Quite weird and different. All right, the TS48, and this was the first one that I ended up picking up from this series, and it's because I wanted to see what TwoSun's kind of natural or G10 kind of looked like. And I got it, and yeah, this thing is a little hawkbill blade. It does have some fullers and a pole sort of thing if you want to do that two-handed. This is also in D2, Night Morning design. Excuse me. And this one, we actually have that stamped clip, but this one in particular isn't blacked. Interesting. We do have orange, which they generally like to pair with their natural G10s for whatever particular reason. I'm not sure. I mean, contrast-wise, it pops. Fairly gradual hawkbill blade sort of thing going on there. Pretty useful. And yeah, not super great for a finger choil or anything like that. And the plunge grind takes a long time to get there, but it gets there here, so you still have plenty of sharpenings to go on that. Next up, a bit later on, I picked up the same knife in micarta. Not even honestly sure exactly why I did. Probably got a really good deal on it. I'm not going to lie to you, since I don't particularly think this is the best thing in the world and I need multiple copies of it. But hey, I do, so there's that. And we have the TS49. This is in D2. You can see this is a Night Morning design. And yes, this one is in carbon fiber. This is one of their first kind of flagship sort of knives. They're top of the range when they originally started making these. And I can certainly agree with that. This thing has a fairly neutral handle there. We don't have much billboarding going on the blade. We just have the blade steel because they decided to have the company name back here. But very neutral and ergonomic handle. I really do like that quite a bit. A very long Tonto-ish sort of thing going on there. It's a pretty useful blade. Now they also do make this with micarta handles, and it's basically this micarta here, so it's not super interesting to me. But that one is an M390, which is you know, a little bit more of the flagship version of it. Next up, we have the TS50. Now this one's a little bit weird and different out there. This is the TS50-G10-TC4. And, well, yeah, I mean, almost all of them that I've seen have been in G10. It's nice that we do have a titanium milled pocket clip rather than something that's just the stamped black clip or whatnot. What does make this one a little bit different, though, is it has titanium liners with the hardened steel insert. Almost all of them that I see out there in the wild now and that are being sold new are using steel liners, so I'm not sure exactly why they did that on this for just a few of them. But hey, I'm glad to have it. It's neat. Really, really nice hard use work knife with some pretty darn good geometry to go along with it. You also have that little curve there on the end if you want to do some utility cuts, because we don't have too much of a raise from the tip there. So a really nice addition there. All right, and we have the TS56. This is the micarta variant. They do have a one that looks even more wild. That's a titanium frame lock. Hold up just a second. There we go. My chair did something strange on me. And yeah, this one At least this particular one has some major problems to it. And for one, you can see that's the blade that you can drag your finger across. Yeah, so that notch, sure, it was a terrible idea. And they shouldn't have done that, but they did, so that whole portion of the blade is basically exposed at all times. Now you can fling that open, and we do have some notches and whatnot cut out of here. They are symmetrical, they're not variated on each side or whatnot. And we do have a very thick tip out here that has that compound grind on it. But back here, a fairly decent grind going on for it. This one is a very neutral handle, but it's not incredibly comfortable to hold on to. Just there's some pointy pieces and whatnot. This is the lowest number that I have with the folded deep carry clip on there. This isn't by far the first, or by far not the first model that came out with it. That's all right. Night Morning in D2. And something interesting with this is it's actually able to be mounted for lefties. There's also virtually no lock bar access to it. I generally don't have a problem closing it, but if my hands were a little wet or whatnot, that would probably be a problem. Next one up here. This one I did not purchase new, and that actually makes me sad. This is TS57, and I think this is a phenomenal knife. You can see we do have a fairly thick blade stock. The tolerances on this one are actually pretty impressive. And flipping that guy open, we have basically kind of a up-canted saber grind. But pretty nice blade geometry on that. Does a really good job at slicing and everything. This is a Night Morning design in D2. And what I really, really like about this is, yes, it is, it does have a lot of milling going on here, but it's very thin. It's much thinner than almost all of their other knives. So if someone is really looking for a thinner knife out there that's still fairly large, but in a more compact package, this thing is fantastic. Really sad that I haven't seen them do any more runs of this, because I think this one is pretty darn good and probably rivals that TS21 that they have everywhere. What I can't say that for is this guy in particular. This is the TS62, and yeah, this is a toothpick style kind of knife there. You can see we have a basically a cosmetic secondary grind going on there. There's virtually no difference, but so it's more cosmetic than anything else. And this one has their camo pattern sort of thing, which is basically just natural G10 with on the top there's some digital camo stuff, and then they've of course milled in some of those things. Ergonomically it's very, very simple. It's not exactly the worst thing in the known universe. You have a really difficult time with the lock bar access on this one. And the blade is also not nearly as bad as this one, but still a bit kind of up there in the back. Certainly not the worst thing in the world, but you definitely have to have a specific want for a knife to specifically like this to pick this one up. Okay, next one is the TS66, and this is the G10. This one they also make an uber high-end version of that's full titanium, integral. In that one in particular, I don't know if they've folded it over after doing the milling or if they've milled it out of a billet. I don't know. I haven't had the knife yet to make that decision, but I keep looking for one for a really good price, and eventually I will have one. But this is the original one here. Then G10. Sorry, not the original, but hey, it's the G10 variant. And this one's got a pretty large blade, quite a bit like the TS50 there, but I think just a little bit more useful. It has a little bit more belly kind of going on back here. And the handle does get a bit thin up here, and it ends up just fitting in your hand quite nicely. This one also will let you have the pocket clip on the left side. And I've actually purchased a couple of these. One of them I sent to my sister. She does some landscaping and whatnot out in the wilderness for some folks. And, well, blue and white is actually really easy to see in nature because they're not super common for foliage colors and whatnot. So figured it was a good choice. And, well, she seemed to like it. I like it, so I have one of my own. And, yeah, one day I will have that integral. In the meantime, though, we have the TS67 Shinobi. And this one is not from Night Morning, as most of them thus far have been. This is from Caleb Fechner. And this one's in D2. And we can see we have some fire kind of anodization sort of thing going on there. It does look pretty darn attractive. I do like that quite a bit. Not a crazy amount of liner access there, but works out pretty darn well. And of course, we have its own bespoke pocket clip that works decently well with the deep lock bar cutout there right before it. It is just a little bit difficult sometimes to get that in there. I mean, obviously, it's not going to slip out on you or anything like that, but it probably could be just a little bit better in and out of the pocket. I will point out that this Caleb Fechner dude, at the time that he designed this knife, was 16, so that's kind of interesting. Also, interestingly, not the youngest person in TwoSun's lineup who's done a knife now as of a few months ago. But very, very thin, so that's pretty darn cool. And the blade is decently protected in there. You know, they didn't, really raise it up to the top or anything like that. So it's really nice for a compact little sort of thing here. Next up, we got the TS68-Sand. This is a Wong design, and he's one of my favorite designers from TwoSun. This isn't going to be my favorite blade from him, but that's all right. Yeah, this is like a 2.5 sort of finger ordeal here. Fairly tall blade on this thing. Does a really good job at doing a lot of utility cuts and whatnot. This is in an M390. And yeah, we have quite a bit of milling kind of going on up here on the top. And a ceramic ball for the pocket clip, which actually works out all right. You can see it's actually under quite a bit of tension, but yeah, at least bearings roll, so it's a little bit easier to deal with that. This one, the action on it isn't amazingly great at the moment, but it is a front flipper, so you're supposed to be able to do that. This one in particular, not super great at, but there you go. All right, the next one we got is the 69, dudes. And this is a strange one. This is another Night Morning. It's in D2, and you'll notice I don't have a pocket clip whatsoever on this thing. We do have a lanyard piece on the back there, so that's fine. And we do have a lock bar access there as well. You can see this thing is stupid fat. And it's not something that easily fits in either of their leather-sized pouches. It can fit into their large one, but it's a little snug, so there's that. And yeah, the very blade right by the shoulder there in the flipper tab is very accessible to your fingers, unfortunately. So yeah, this one's really, really strange. It's got some little bit of fullers there, but it's for cosmetic purposes only. Quite a strange one, but yeah, one that I got for a fairly darn cheap price. Okay, TS74. This is a Night Morning design, and I got some grievances with this one. Hey, they have a full backspacer, so none of the blade is exposed, so that's pretty safe on there. And you can see this thing's got a massive stop pin on there, and that's great. And it's also got a titanium milled pocket clip that works pretty well, as long as your pants material isn't super thick. However, this is a flipper and a front flipper, and they didn't think it through because of how far this comes. If you're doing this, even trying to do a light switch, you got to be really quick to move your finger out of the way. Otherwise, yeah, it just hits, and it's painful when it gets you because it just pinches like all of this area here. Now the front flipper can work, but it comes back quite far, so a lot of times you can end up hitting your finger rather than actually getting this thing fully deployed. I can definitely tell that this was one of Night Morning's first forays into front flippers, and he's gotten a lot better since. So there's that. We also have these fuller sort of things here if you want to open it two-handed. This one's got a Hawkbillish blade on there. I'm assuming this is probably used for some sort of pruning or something like that, or fruit knife sort of applications, but not quite sure. And here we have the TS76-Up. And this is half G10, and in this particular case, half steel frame lock. They have made them also in titanium, but a little bit later on. I've done a little bit of aftermarket stonewashing on this one in particular, so that's why the blade looks a little bit different. It's usually satin. And I do like this thing quite a bit. It's got green and black layered G10 that they've done some milling to. It's a little bit different than their black and whites series are. Pretty comfortable overall. And I do like that blade shape quite a bit. It's quite good for doing a lot of work. But, alright, well, here's the first two drawers. This has gone on for about 30 minutes or so, so I will pick this up in a few days here, and we'll take a look at some more of them. So, until then, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo.